Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast, the channel for film reviews, discussions, and everything in between. I'm Chris Garner, joined with the co-host for today, Tayte in the Hour, and today we are going to give our review on the huge, critically acclaimed The Revenant, directed by, okay, I'm going for this, Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. I think that's right. I think I may have needed more of an accent, but anyway. So yeah, this is obviously the acclaimed Western revenge film starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hardy, Domhnall Gleeson. So let's just get straight into it. We'll be going into a spoiler-free review first, and then we'll be moving into spoilers later, but as always, we'll warn you when we get to that section. And we have no plan for this review. We are just going straight into it. First off, it's nice to actually get you back on the podcast because you have been a little under the weather recently. So it's good. Mate.
I still am.
Yeah. Well, you're being an absolute. You're like Leonardo DiCaprio. He's determined, and he's just going for it. He's a man on a mission.
I did go outside today, and it was pretty cold. So
it was. Did you have to? Oh, actually, no. That's getting into spoilers. Let's get into our spoiler-free first, so we can spoil the hell out of this movie. So. Where to really start with this movie? Just the level of hype that this film has been building up to Oscar season. This is, without a doubt, the strongest contender, I would say, at the Oscars. Anyone who hasn't watched our Oscars predictions video, we've pretty much pinned this at sweeping the board at the Oscars again. Pretty much how Birdman did. So not only does it have DiCaprio and Tom Hardy in it, but with Alejandro, as I said, straight off of Birdman, which picked up a huge amount of Oscars last year. It's already got credibility in that way. And we saw his filming style in Birdman with lots of single shots and one takes. We know that he hides his edits really well. There's obviously going to be cuts in a film like that, but it was a very quirky film. It did get a lot of people talking, and this one is too. He still uses one shots in this one, but it's also down to the fact that he used just completely natural lighting in this one.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at his directorial history, and he had Babel in 2006, was it?
Yeah.
Other than that, it is just Birdman and Revenant, and wow, it's just like, yeah. I swear that this, like, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name. Alejandro, he's just come out of nowhere, I swear.
Yeah, he has, but I mean, both Birdman and this, two completely different movies.
Yeah.
And he shows his absolute talent as a director, and I guess that's the biggest thing I can say about this film is that not only does this film look gorgeous, but this film makes you appreciate film just as an art form. I mean, just every single second of this film,
yeah,
I was just riveted by. It is quite a long movie. It is.
Yeah.
What is it? It's
156 minutes.
156 minutes, and I'm not gonna lie, it feels every single one of those minutes.
Yeah.
The story itself, if you want to go in depth to it, because I know you're the IMDb guy, I'm the Wikipedia guy.
Yep.
So if you want to give the brief rundown on the plot.
A frontiersman on a fur trading expedition in the 1820s fights for survival after being mauled by a bear and left for dead by members of his own hunting team. And by the way, I actually had to search this up before I watched the film. The Revenant is a person who is basically, I think, a survivor or left not dead yet, or something like that.
I think it's someone who's raised from the dead to get revenge, isn't it? I think that's what The Revenant is. Which is, you could not sum up this film in a more perfect title than that.
No, that's pretty good. Yeah.
And this is loosely based on history as well, true events. There was a guy called Hugh Glass who was mauled by a bear.
Was an actual guy. I'm going to type in his name and see what it is.
Whether he went through all this is another story,
well,
but
people were saying that it was like a folktale.
Yeah.
Like, he did actually... Okay, I'm reading it now. He did get mauled by a bear.
And then he traversed the wilderness on his own to get to civilization, I think. I don't know if the whole revenge subplot was like in the actual history. Yeah. I think it's been, embellished quite a lot. But let's just talk before we even get into the acting. Can we just talk about cinematography in this movie? George, if you're listening to this, what the hell were you thinking of not putting this as winning?
Hey, I reminded him before he went to go watch it. I was just like, just to remind you that you didn't even put it down as your second option for cinematography. And he just said, yeah. I'm just like, I just wanted to let you know, because he was texting us whilst the adverts were going on beforehand. He was like, "Do you know what? I'm really kind of pumped for this film." And I'm like, yeah, I was too. I mean, when I was watching it as well, the cinematography really got me in the mood, and he was not happy when I did it.
So the guy who did the cinematography was Emmanuel Lubezki. Let's see what else he's done before. He did the cinematography for Birdman, for Gravity, which did have very nice cinematography. Tree of Life, Children of Men. So he's done quite a lot. But yeah, wow. And I think this film as well, it had a lot of production problems to it as well, because I think that Alejandro wanted to film it in sequence. For those of you who maybe don't know, because I know some people don't know much about filmmaking, films are usually just filmed in a very fragmented and non-linear order. They're just sort of filmed whenever they can get hold of locations, whenever they can get actors, and then it's obviously put all together in proper chronological order when it gets to post-production and editing. This movie was apparently shot in sequence. So the first scene that you see in the film is the first one that was ever shot. And I'm sure that films have done that before, whether they're experimental films or whether they are big budget ones. But I can't remember a film in my lifetime that has done that and has got that much attention like this one has.
That's him going for the best director there, I'm telling you now.
Yeah, it's like he personally puts himself through hell to go up for that award.
I think it's the idea of, okay, I did Birdman last year. That was amazing. Brilliant technological feat. Amazing how I put it together and stuff like that. They're not going to give me the Oscar again for the same stuff. They're going to give it to someone else for something that they have achieved as well. I need to go and do something different. I need to go to do something that no one's done before or no one's done in a long time and pull it off right. So he's obviously gone with this.
Oh, if only he'd have done the same stuff though and just cast Michael Keaton as DiCaprio's character in this movie. That would have been amazing.
I don't think he'd fit in.
Yeah, probably not. No. But it would be cool to see Keaton.
He could have been the bear.
Bear man. But yeah, oh my god, the cinematography in this film, every single frame of this film,
beautiful.
You are aware of the cinematography in this film, and when a film does that, you know it's done a good job. Whether it's the landscapes or just anything, just how shots are framed, how long the shots go on for, and there are a lot of those shots that are one shots, not going into spoilers or anything. The scene is in the trailer, but I guess some people don't want to know the placement of it. The opening scene of this film is just unforgettable. Apparently there were 46 cuts in that, or there were about 46 edits.
There was a lot of edits
perfectly. In there. Yeah, absolutely perfect. So just from like a film standpoint, the only two films that I think have had really jaw-dropping cinematography from last year, technically going into this year too, would be Mad Max Fury Road and this. So that I think I put those as my first two choices. But absolutely, this deserves to win. Mad Max was great as well, don't get me wrong, but this, I think it was just the locations, everything like that. Let's talk about the cast.
Good cast.
Let's talk about DiCaprio, because he's got massive Oscar buzz, and if he does win for this one, it will be like a lifetime achievement award when he goes up and gets the Oscar for this film.
I have to say, if he doesn't win this, then there will actually be riots this time. There has always been a doubt in the last few times. You'd be like, Leo should win it, but he won't. Like, I would always say that. I mean, I said that for Wolf of Wall Street. I was like, yeah, Leo should win it. He won't. And I said it for The Aviator. Leo should win it. He won't. And
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah. Films like this, if you don't give it to him, then it is clearly obvious that you're being biased against him. Not only that, but he's jumped through the hoops for you guys this time. He's actually gone and got himself injured properly on set. I know he did in Django, but he wasn't nominated for anything in Django. He actually, almost got frostbite, I think I read somewhere. Yeah. He went through a lot.
Alejandro was sure to put his actors through absolute hell, but that translates on screen very well, because that's the whole point of the film. It's this one man traversing the wilderness, going through absolute hell and back, hell-bent on revenge against the guy who killed his son. And, it shows, and I guess that's one of the reasons he chose to shoot it in sequential order as well, is that you see this physical weariness of the character as the film progresses. And you definitely do see that. I mean, you go through all these events, you go through so many events with DiCaprio throughout the almost 3-hour running time that you do almost feel you breathe that sigh of relief towards the end, like as it's wrapping up, because you feel like you have gone on this journey with him.
I'm not gonna lie, but like throughout the entire film, this isn't really a spoiler, but whenever they go crossing into a river, you think, do you know what? If I was an actual person, I'd just lay down a log or something like that. But these actors are just wading through. You know, they're actually getting soaked wet. And I don't know how many takes it's going to take with that scene, but I'm betting that water's bloody cold, especially when you're filming in places like Calgary. In fact, all the places they filmed, I think most of it was in Canada.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty cold water. And Argentina as well, but like snow-covered Argentina. So, like, what they went through, just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just cold as this film makes you feel cold. It's like Hateful Eight in that regard. Like I was just watching Hateful Eight, and I felt toasty when they got to the cabin, and it's the same with this one. Like you feel everything the characters do feel. One thing I did want to bring up, and this is where I typically get very controversial in reviews. I'm known to do that from time to time. I recently watched a video by a YouTube channel called Sage Rants. He's a great YouTuber, puts out great videos. I'll put the link to the video I'm going to talk about in the description below. He did a semi-rant on this film, and I agree with some of his points to an extent, in that I don't quite understand why Leonardo DiCaprio is getting huge Oscar hype for this one movie in particular, because really his character, he doesn't say much at all, and I do think that out of the two main performers in this film, that Hardy does a much better job. And I have seen Leo be better in other movies before. Django, Shutter Island, Wolf of Wall Street, Aviator.
Thing is, though, that's not the point.
No, but I just think in terms of... It depends which lead actors we've got this year, because it really is quite a bad year for film. We've said this before. But...
It's not a bad year for film, it's just a bad year for acting, for male acting category.
Yeah.
It's a good year for female acting category.
Absolutely,
loads in there, and it's a good year for best film, because we were deciding, Revenant might win best film. What would come second if that wasn't the case? It's just that this year, I'd say it as well with last year. Last year it was always ever going to be Benedict Cumberbatch or Benedict. It was always a three horse race: Benedict Cumberbatch, Redmayne, and
Keaton.
Thank you. And this year, I'd say is a one-horse race. Like, I mean, we found it difficult trying to come up with a person who could come second, and I think I went with Redmayne, I think.
Yeah, I did. Well, I've actually put Redmayne as winning it, didn't I think.
Yeah, why did you do that?
Because I know what the Academy's like. I've been hurt before by watching the Oscars. I don't know. For me, it's that I want to see DiCaprio get one, because he is one of my... He's easily in my top 3 favourite actors currently working in the business.
I didn't put Redmayne, I put Fassbender.
Fassbender was great. Fassbender was awesome in Steve Jobs, but I don't think he'll get it, sadly.
That's really out of left field, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like, DiCaprio is fantastic, and he's great in this. I just don't know if he's Oscar-worthy from this movie. And another criticism that was laid at the film that I do sort of agree with, and I touched on this at the start, it is very long. It is too long, I would say.
I'm not going to lie. All films that win Best Picture are long. Can you name a short film that has ever won Best Picture? In fact, I know the number. Wait, I think the shortest film to ever win Best Picture was just under 2 hours. So you're looking at a long film anyway. You're not looking at like a 90-minute happy romp or whatever you're expecting for Best Picture. It's going to be long, it's going to be grueling, and it's going to be entertaining, not for the viewer's standpoint, but for the cinematic standpoint. Think of the cinema.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think when you sort of break this film down and you just look at the story, it is a simple revenge movie. It's a guy kills guy's son. He's angry and wants to kill him for killing his son. That's the story. Very simple revenge concept.
Mad Max is Fast and Furious in the desert.
Yeah.
So really, if you're looking at it in that way, you're basically just kind of you're nitpicking.
No, but this is the difference. Mad Max had a 2-hour running time.
Yeah.
this has a just under 3-hour running time.
Mad
and
Max
also,
was aimed at the masses. This was aimed at cinema high ups.
I just think you could have told an equally as cohesive story with the same narrative, the same cinematography and direction in about 2 hours to 2 hours 15, in all honesty, with this movie. I think that it would have moved at a much brisker pace. I think you could have lost 20 minutes out of this movie easily, and I do think that during the second act it does start to drag quite a lot, in that it does get very self-indulgent, in that it's just DiCaprio and... he's faced with an obstacle in the wilderness, gets past it. He's faced with another one, gets past it. And that sort of repeats throughout the entire second act to the point where it feels like the story just slows to a crawl. I do think you could have shaved a little bit out of that. And even thematically, I mean, I'm not going to go in depth into the ending and sort of how it all plays out, but even the theme of the actual film is very simple to most revenge films I've seen. So I think the running time does sort of bog it down, and I think that might put some people off. I still know a lot of people that have been to see this film, mostly
did you enjoy
down to the cast. Yeah, I did enjoy the film. This is not me saying that I hate this movie. I just think that if it had had a slightly shorter running time, I think the film could have been a lot tighter, told exactly the same story, exactly the same sort of level of art and filmmaking. I just don't think it needed to be like 160 minutes long.
My usual tell on how well films pace itself is I look at my watch. This film may have been too long, but the pacing in the film is pretty good.
Yeah,
so
I'll agree with that.
I'll allow it. Like, if the pacing was off, if it was slow in some parts and fast in the other, no. It built up the tension and then it dropped back down again, but you were still at a reasonably high tension even in those slow bits. So pacing was quite good in the film. Therefore, I didn't really mind the runtime. I think there was only one part where I did mind the runtime, and that was towards the... this isn't spoiling anything. Towards the end. With the basically final bit. But I think that like the actual film itself, it deserved that. It's a lengthy start. It wouldn't be right to end it soon. Just like it's pulling the reverse Brooklyn here. Brooklyn, very sharp decision, needed to finish quickly. This one, long trek, long journey, needs a long ending. Not Lord of the Rings long, I have to say. That isn't spoiling anything, but it's saying that it is shorter than Lord of the Rings ending. Which
it is
Chris
almost the same running time as the first Lord of the Rings
pointed
movie.
out to us in his Malicious Movie Minute,
yeah.
how he absolutely hated that ending.
An episode that will live in infamy forever and ever. No, I'll agree with that, and I think that with the current running time that it has, it does allow the audience to feel that sort of weariness along with the character. I just think in terms of general movie going, I think you could have told the same story in much shorter running time, and maybe that would have sort of made the film a bit more cohesive. Let's talk about... Yes, I was just going to say, let's talk Tom Hardy, because it would be an absolute disservice to this review if we don't bring him up.
So yeah, Tom Hardy played Tom Hardy.
No,
I'm joking.
No.
Jesus, no.
He did do the Bane voice at some points, though. A trait that's often common with Tom Hardy.
Yeah. Tom Hardy's a brilliant voice actor. Like, I think that he should do, like, what's-it-called? Like, an animated film for Disney or something like that, as a villain.
He just shows up like, yes, I was molded by it. No, that'd be great.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like the new Joker, and that's not a good thing.
That's the Suicide Squad trailer is a whole review for a whole other time. Oh boy. But no, anyway. Tom Hardy absolutely disappears into this role of John Fitzgerald. If I'm going to think of a person who he reminded me of in another film, it would probably be Jeff Bridges in True Grit.
Yes.
Just the way he talks, it's that very sort of mumbly Western voice that's very difficult to understand sometimes.
He is evil.
Yes.
By the way, guys, evil. Tom Hardy's the bad guy in this film.
Yeah, in case you didn't get that from the trailer. So here's the question.
I'm talking to you.
He's intense as shit in this movie. For best villain of the year, it's a toss-up between Immortan Joe and John Fitzgerald for me. Tom Hardy is just...
We see an Immortan Joe kind of character, big brooding every single year. this guy was quiet and calculating. I always prefer those villains.
Yeah.
I have to say that he was the best villain of this year. And I think it helps to say that in his role, he kept so calm whilst doing it. Like, I know that Leo went method acting to get into his role. I think it was initially going to be Christian Bale as the main character of Hugo Glass.
Yeah.
I'm not
also,
sure.
we would have had another Christian Bale Tom Hardy throwdown.
Yeah.
That'd have been great.
But in the end, they approached Leo, and Leo was like, "Okay, I'll do the character." He studied him and stuff like that. But like Tom Hardy also did that, and by God, he really does become John Fitzgerald, and that's scary.
Yeah. Absolutely, and Tom Hardy always brings that intensity, whether it's in Bronson, Legend, just anything he's in, he always has that underlying intensity.
It's the fact that he was able to gain the trust of all the people there, and then like all the people in his group, and you could always tell that he was scheming, and he was always something ticking in his mind, and in the trailer it's kind of like you can see that he is aggressive. He is a bit.
He's unhinged. He's unhinged all the way through. Yeah.
Well, no, I'd say selfish.
Yeah. Oh,
From
absolutely.
The film, he comes across as an extremely selfish character. I mean, they work in the fur trade business, and throughout the entire film, he's just thinking about his pay. He's thinking about him living, him surviving. He doesn't care what happens to everyone else as long as he's the one who survives, and that really does pay off throughout the film.
Yeah. And by the way, this has a point, this comparison I'm going to make, but any Transformers fans out there, it was it did skirt the lines with this in that, are you familiar with Transformers like Starscream and Megatron? How Megatron's the leader and Starscream's just try to vie for command all the time, openly in front of Megatron.
Yeah.
But yet Megatron always keeps him around. I did have that feeling with Fitzgerald in this because Domhnall Gleeson plays Captain Andrew Henry, who's a great captain, he's a great leader of men, he's making decisions, and John Fitzgerald is so evil from the beginning and scheming, and Domhnall Gleeson knows this, but he keeps him around all the time and entrusts him with tasks of great importance, like, this isn't going into much, but like looking after the injured DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And Domhnall Gleeson knows that this guy is not a good guy, and yet he keeps giving him these tasks to watch over people or to secure something. I don't know if that's the case. I would say that was probably
because he was the strongest person left there.
That's what I thought. Maybe it's because Fitzgerald is the best at what he does. Like, from the beginning, we know that he is, he wants to collect these pelts. Basically, they've gathered all these pelts together, and they've ambushed, and they have to leave them behind.
Yeah.
But you can see that Fitzgerald is just obsessed with the money that he's going to be making for this. He openly says that throughout the whole film. And yeah, I really hope Tom Hardy gets it for supporting. I forgot who else is up for supporting, actually.
My supporting actor, I put Mark Ruffalo and Mark Rylance. So Bridge of Spies and Spotlight.
Mark Rylance is definitely the one to watch. I recently just watched Bridge of Spies, and I completely agree with everything you said about him. Yep. He is fantastic in that movie, but that's a review for another time. As we said, we sort of touched on Domhnall Gleeson a little bit. He is Domhnall Gleeson. He's very, very good, and this is yet another major role he's been in. Yep.
This year?
Yep, something like that. I mean, he was in Star Wars, he was in Brooklyn, he was Ex Machina, and this.
That's a good year. I have to say he's probably the actor who's probably had I'd say him and Tom Hardy have probably had the best years. And they appear in a film at the end. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, and this guy's career is just going to skyrocket. I think I mentioned that in the Brooklyn review as well. But I mean,
I think you mentioned that also in the Star Wars review.
Yes, well, Domhnall Gleeson is here to stay probably, so we need to do that. So I think we could talk about music, perhaps.
We could, yeah. The music was really well done, I think.
Yeah, there's nothing hummable from it, which seems to be a current trait now with movies.
Wasn't really the kind of film that you would hum along to.
No,
it felt
no
very
rousing
kind of,
main theme.
I would say Aboriginal.
Yeah, no, totally, yeah.
Like, it felt really earthy and like kind of... this is going to make me sound so shallow, but deep.
You pretentious bastard.
Come on, it did sound like... It did... No?
No, no. Put it like this: with this soundtrack, it's not one I would listen to on its own.
No, but
But
it
in
is
the movie,
one
it
that
works.
works with the film. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a sign of a good film score if it can do that. And I don't think I was always conscious of the music, but when it did kick in, it really worked. There's a lot of sort of tribal drums in it. It's very, very subtle. It's sort of what are the soundtracks going to compare it to in terms of how it does that? The soundtrack to The Prestige, on its own, terrible score, but it really helps the movie because you're so focused on the movie that the music just seems to blend in with the imagery. And I like film scores that do that. Obviously, I like the big, bombastic, memorable scores like anything that John Williams has done and early Hans Zimmer stuff. Yeah. But music like this does work, and I'm not even going to try and attempt to pronounce some of the composers on this film. 3 composers worked on this film, but I don't know if this is up for original score. I don't think it is it? I think it's just Ennio Morricone, Star Wars. Yeah, I don't think this was up for it. But yeah, I'm trying to think. So what we should do is I think we should just go into any other positives and negatives we had, sort of general sum up, and then we'll get straight into spoilers.
Yes, so any negatives from you?
It's pretty much what I've already said, really. Just I think that it might be perhaps a little bit too long. That's not necessarily a bad thing because there is a reason for it, I think, but I do think that they could have shaved off about 10 to 20 minutes out of this film quite easily and nothing much would have changed. Absolutely fantastic performances all across the board. Tom Hardy gives one of his best performances in a film to date, I would say.
Yep.
And DiCaprio's great as always. It would be nice to see him get the Oscar, not so much for this film, but it would be like an achievement Oscar for all the times he didn't get nominated and should have got nominated.
Yeah.
Alejandro, man, this is a director to watch. I mean, with these 2 films that he's done, so different stylistically. I can't wait to see what this guy does next, and I can't wait to look forward to this guy's filmography in like 10 years or so.
It's gonna be good, isn't it? I think he might take a year's break. I
think he has earned one after this movie, in all honesty.
Let me have a look at his next project.
Other than that, fantastic cinematography, one of the nicest looking films I've seen in ages. And we're going to get into it in spoilers, but that bear scene, oh my god, just wow.
Yeah.
And that's my review of Revenant pretty much. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Be warned if you are sort of a casual moviegoer and just think that, oh, this is a DiCaprio gets mauled by a bear and goes on a revenge story. Yes, that is the story, but the film is a lot sort of... I'm not going to use the word deeper because you already coined that one in this review. But
we got to go deep.
Yeah. I'm doing the DiCaprio face right now. But no, I don't even know how to describe the film. It is a... Some films are movies. This is a film.
Yes.
And this makes you appreciate the art of filmmaking, the planning that goes into it, cinematography, directing, acting, everything that all goes along with it. And I think that without a question of a doubt, this is going to win Best Picture at the Oscars. It's probably going to get a lot more than that too. Best Director and Picture usually go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And the rest of them we'll have to see. But yeah, I would recommend definitely seeing The Revenant. Whether it's a film you go back and watch multiple times afterwards, that's up to you. But I think that everyone should at least experience it once on the big screen.
I was offered to go see it again tonight, but I'd seen it a couple of days before, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave it for a bit. I'll probably go see it again at some point.
Yeah.
But all I can say is that this, like, some films are timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Some films will transcend time. Star Wars, the original one, was timeless, and there are reasons why films like Star Wars, The Godfather, will become timeless. And that's because they have, like, it's to do with the score, it's to do with the way it's acted, and it's to do with the way it's directed. If it's acted, directed in a good way, and the score doesn't link to a certain time period, then you are set to have a film that will just go on being loved throughout the ages. Yeah. I think this film will come out to be some kind of classic, like, I wouldn't say Godfather level of classic, but I'd say people will think back on it and think, wow, that film That was so good. When was that? Oh my god, that was 2015? No way. Just like I did the other day with Lawrence of Arabia. Oh my god. Didn't realise how old that film was.
Yeah, I do with that a lot with a lot of films too. It makes me feel very old and
this
sad.
will become one of those films, and that's a good thing. It doesn't mean that people have forgotten when it was made. It just means that it's so good that, like, you don't know what time period it comes from. Like, it could work in any time period. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it, and let's talk about the film a little bit more now.
Yes, so now we're getting into our spoiler section. If you haven't seen The Revenant and you want to, I would recommend stopping this video now, then come back to us after you've seen the film, because there is a lot of stuff in this movie, although it's a simple plot that you really should just see firsthand on the big screen. So you have been warned. Tayte, where do you want to jump into first? Shall we talk the opening scene, or shall we get straight into the bear goodness?
We'll briefly talk about the opening scene, because the opening scene was the reminiscence of Birdman left over, I'd say. There wasn't many sequences in the film other than the horse chase, where the scene was perfectly knitted and weaved together. So I'd say that the opening scene was kind of the leftoverness from Birdman, just saying, hey guys, I was the guy who did this in Birdman. It worked really well, and it was a very good scene, very well shot. But, like, there isn't really anything that you can say about that scene. It was really well done. Yeah. I mean, there's no faults in that scene, and I'm trying to think of one in my head now, and I can't think of one.
I thought it was a great place to open the movie with. We saw it in the trailer.
Always going to be the place where they were going to open the movie.
And it's like, I think in the trailer is that bit where he shoots that guy in the tree and the camera follows the body as it hits the ground, and then get into the boat and everything like that. We didn't talk about this in spoiler free, but this film gets violent, and it's not gratuitous violence, it's realistic violence, and it gets
and I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah. But just watching that opening scene unfold, I think I've said this occasionally, I may have said this in the Mad Max one. There's only been a few films that I've watched, and I'm literally just so wrapped up in the movie, I go, I don't know how anyone made that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how anyone planned it, directed it, shot it, all that stuff. I think I had that with the Lord of the Rings films. I had that with Fury Road. It almost transcends film and becomes something magical that I don't know, like, come from the heavens, not made by man. This opening scene was one of those moments. I know it wasn't done in one take, but how it's made to look like it is. I can't even think how much planning went into this opening scene, just the movie in general, because they were shooting with natural light, so they had some days where they had, right, we have 2 hours in this location, no one better fuck it up, and they'd like hit record and just go for it.
Natural light and, was it chronological order?
Chronological order, yeah.
Oh my god. That's
and
crazy.
I think there were some scenes as well that, because there's an avalanche scene in this film too, that I think the studio said, let's CGI this, and Alejandro was like, no.
We're creating an avalanche.
We need to wait for this to happen.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at the budget for this thing. So the budget was done on 135 mil. It's already made its budget back with 160.5. So I think a lot of the cost of that budget went on to not only location shooting, but just days of waiting for shots to happen, probably. But that opening shot on the boat and everything like that, it was just, it reminded me of playing Assassin's Creed 3 or like Red Dead Redemption and stuff like that. It was just epic to watch. Great place to open the film with.
And then we stroll down the river.
Yep.
We have
some Tom Hardy menacing mumbling for a while.
I'm talking to you. Don't you look away while I'm talking to you, boy.
He's scary as hell in that scene.
And then we have Leo versus Bear rounds 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, we do.
I have to say, as a judge, the bear wins.
The bear wins without a question of a doubt. But I think DiCaprio put up a pretty good fight for as well as you can against a grizzly bear.
If you were watching it, I counted the points in the first round. The bear had at least 20 hits on him. DiCaprio had like 1. That's a complete wipeout. I'm surprised that the ref didn't call it off. It's crazy. The 2 bears in the crowd were going wild. I just didn't know. I don't know why that fight wasn't cancelled.
That definitely didn't go into split decision at the end of that fight.
Yet somehow, like, Leo was the one who stood up at the end. It's just like, what the hell?
It was like a Rocky 2. Oh, no, you're not a Rocky fan, but Rocky 2 moment where they both land a punch at the same time and both fall down in slow motion at the same time. No, but we all knew this scene was coming, and this was my most anticipated film of the whole film. I don't know if it was for you. I think it was probably for most people, and it definitely did not disappoint. First off, the effects on the bear itself, amazing. Absolutely amazing. In fact, at some points it looks like
it's ruffled.
Yeah, it's like they took a real bear and then obviously it was CGI in most scenes, but it looks like they maybe enhanced it in some others. I'm looking forward to seeing the making of this film actually to see how exactly they did that. If someone knows, just drop us a comment, because I know that there was an article trending on the internet the other day about how they did that scene. I was speaking to someone at my work today who thought that the bear didn't look great in that because it's all done in natural lighting and the bear was added in afterwards, that the lighting wasn't quite 100% right on the bear. I never had a problem with that. I thought it looked fantastic. I thought at points it looked almost photorealistic, and that attack on DiCaprio is one of the hardest things to watch probably in a film from last year. It was so realistic how that would go down, like where it's
screaming and stuff like that. You're just like, no, Leo, I want to help you.
And it's just, raking his back up with the claws, and it like rips his throat out at one point, which leads on to a bit later on in the film where he has to cauterize his own throat with gunpowder, which was awesome. But no, this whole bear attack did not disappoint, and it's how it goes on as well, and how it's shot, and it's the long take. There's no big swell of music behind it. It's exactly what it says it is. It's a bear ripping apart a human, and it's done in very graphic detail, and how it would actually be in real life if that happened. This was without a doubt my favourite scene in the whole film.
It wouldn't have worked if it didn't look right, and it looked right.
And that's pretty much... I'm sure there were other effect shots in the film as well, because it's not just going to be that bear, but that bear did look great. Because in a film like this, maybe if it's all done on location, anything CGI would just stick out like a sore thumb. And I thought that... Because you can't obviously have a real bear mauling a person. That's like... I know I'm a big fan of practical effects and always endorse it, but that's a step too far, probably.
Game of Thrones managed to get a tamed bear to fight true. Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah, so but it wasn't on like top of her ripping her apart.
I don't know why Tom Cruise didn't just like... Well, if they have medical staff on board, you know how whenever they have people doing underwater shots, they have divers ready to go in?
Yeah.
They could have had divers ready to go and rescue Tom Cruise. What's it called? Leo?
DiCaprio?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, you said Tom Cruise, I was like, I want to see that movie now. I want to see Mission Impossible 6. I want him seeing fighting a bear.
I may or may not have been reading movie news and Tom Cruise is at the top.
Oh, Tom Cruise is just the man. That guy's great. That guy deserves an Oscar too.
He is going to be in the Mummy reboot, and that's what the news was.
Sold. I am seeing it because of Tom Cruise.
Dude, off topic.
Yeah, okay, getting back to the bet. Great segment of the film. My favourite scene of the entire film, without question. It did not disappoint. And then, so from that point onwards, it's just sort of, event after event. It's very much like The Hobbit in that it's almost episodic in like, what wacky misadventure does DiCaprio find himself in this time? Oh no, he has to swim down a river and fall over waterfalls. Do you think, because I've heard this criticism too, that at points it did stray into the ridiculous a bit too much, like how much can one man go through and survive? Like there's a scene where he's fully submerged in a freezing cold river and he shivers afterwards and then he's fine. Next scene, he gets a furry coat. He's good. He's good to go for the rest of the movie. I think there were bits that sort of did delve into that. Like, I'm not going to knock this scene at all because it was awesome, and this was the jaw-dropping moment for me in the trailer. It's where he goes over that cliff on the horse.
Yeah.
Very, very over the top, and then he does like a sort of Empire Strikes Back moment or Bear Grylls, where he cuts it open and camps out in the body of the horse.
Yeah.
But there were moments where
I think that was actually the point where he got frostbite, because in that scene, he was naked, like half naked, basically. In, I think at the time of filming, it was like -10 or something like that, but -10 Fahrenheit, not like Celsius. So pretty goddamn cold, and he was butt stuck naked and had to climb into a fake dead horse.
Yeah. It's like, I thought they only smelt bad. On the outside.
That's how I want to spend my Saturdays,
just chilling on a horse. But that shot before he goes over the cliff, and now this makes a lot more sense. Now I know that the cinematographer was Emmanuel Lubezki. That one scene from Children of Men, where the guys are chasing them and it follows him to the car and then the car stops. I've only seen that film once, but I do remember that particular shot. Very similar to that, and when he goes over the cliff, that was a great payoff to the scene that hooked me from the trailer. I think that was the final scene of the trailer, actually.
The horse scene, yeah.
Yeah. So
I was actually most looking forward to the horse chase. I'm not gonna lie. But that really did pay off quite well. I quite like that scene.
And then you get all the shots as well with I tell you what, one thing I never get tired of seeing in films like this is just a herd of buffalo.
Yeah.
Whether they're grazing or whether they're stampeding over villages, I love seeing some buffalo. There was a great mini-series that came out years ago called Into the West. I don't know if many people are familiar with it, but I'm going to give that a mention because that had lots of scenes like that and reminded me of this in some aspects too.
Actually, I'm going to tell you something now.
Yeah?
So when I was sat in the cinema with my friend, I may or may not have turned to him at one point and said, "Hey dude, are you sure we haven't just walked into another showing of The Good Dinosaur?" And do you know what? He pointed at the wolves and said, "Yeah, they're actually T-Rexes." And the whole thing about him trying to get home.
Oh my god.
Has that completely changed the movie for you?
The film parallel of the year. Oh, someone please do that, like superimpose the T-Rexes into that shot. We need some more majestic as fuck T-Rexes. I guess we just had to settle for a majestic as fuck DiCaprio. Yeah, so would I.
That on a t-shirt.
We need to push that.
George is our Photoshop guy. George, if you're watching this, please get on that right now.
Yeah. And you need that sunset shot. He knows it. The one with the T-Rexes from Good Dinosaur. Please make that happen.
No. We're taking the sunset shot from A New Hope, having that with the buffalo.
Yes.
And the dinosaurs.
Greatest movie ever. Oh, please, George, make that happen if you've made it this far.
I think in that scene, just before that scene, with the fish, I think he actually had to catch and eat the fish.
He probably did. I mean, he is a method actor.
I know that.
Yeah. And it was like a total Gollum moment where he's just like ripping into this fish. It's just like, ugh.
I think it. I'm not sure whether this is right or not, but I read somewhere it was on a forum, so it might not be right. Don't quote me on this. But they got fish from a local fish farm type thing. And they had 3 fish at the start, 3 different types. And they kind of made the rock pool. They kind of ushered them in there, but Leo had to actually catch the fish himself. And if they escaped, they had people on hand to go and catch them again to stick them in the rock pool.
That seems a little bit unfair on the fish's part.
Well, they wanted to actually have Leo eat the fish.
Yeah,
but they couldn't make it look fake, so they had to actually get the fish itself, and they had to be humane, so they couldn't actually steal one from the wild. They had to get one bought from like a farm.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
That makes it a lot more
that
right.
Makes it more legal, I think.
Yeah. They don't want to get like slapped with like a restrained order. Or,
they couldn't also release those fish into the wild because of breeding problems. So he had to actually eat them.
I guess that was supper for the cast and crew that night.
I'm not sure what happened to the other 2, but like he had to actually eat that one fish.
They're saving those 2 for the sequel. So let's get to the ending. So
the good
he
Revenant
goes through all this. He chases down Tom Hardy, and then Tom Hardy realizes he's still alive, and he's like, "Shit, I'm getting out of here." So he leaves, and then Domhnall Gleeson and DiCaprio go into the mountains to chase after him. And
Domhnall Gleeson, his fate is sealed as soon as he goes on that journey.
I blame DiCaprio because he goes with the Scooby-Doo tactic of let's split up. That will work.
Yes, although they would actually no, they would have worked better if they'd stuck together.
Yeah, and ultimately it does pay off. Ultimately, he does succeed.
Yeah.
But it was that moment where I knew exactly what was going on, where DiCaprio obviously takes the coat off himself and puts it on Domhnall Gleeson's dead body, props him up with a branch.
Yeah.
and you sort of cutted onto this like halfway through it, and you're like, oh my god, this is going to be amazing. And that final fight between Tom Hardy and DiCaprio is without a doubt one of the best fights I've seen between two people.
One of the best, I'd say, towards the end, one of the best, like, brutal life or death fist fights and stuff like that. I think that's what they wanted to go for.
And I'm trying to cast my mind back. Is it mostly done in one shot? Yes, it did.
It was, yeah. But like, when they're at the stream and they're just punching the lights out of each other, and then they're trying to struggle for a knife, and then, oh my god, it's just. I think really Tom Hardy gets his fingers cut off or something with an axe, or in one scene. It was a great scene. And they have mutual respect for each other because they were former partners, but they have absolute blinding hate for each other because one of them tried to leave the other for dead, and the other one just wants to live out his life on his peace. Like, but you're supporting the person, like, you're supporting only one corner here, and that's Leo's corner. Like, you want Tom Hardy to suffer a horrible, brutal death at that point.
Yeah.
Like, after everything he's done, like, throughout the entire film, killed one of Leo's comrades, left him for dead, killed his son, like, everything that he's been through, the journey that he's taken, you really, really hope that, like, he suffers a really brutal death, and in the end, he just gets handed back over to the native Indians.
Yeah, and I thought that was quite a cool payoff to that theme of the story.
Yeah.
We never really talked about him, but I thought that kid was pretty good in it as well. I think
the guy who plays Hawk.
Yeah. Wait, not the son. The other one that tags along with Tom Hardy for a while.
Oh yeah. He was in Maze Runner.
Maze Runner. That's the one. I knew he was in one of those sort of films. Is it Will Poulter? I think that's his name.
Yeah.
I thought he was pretty good as well throughout the movie. So. I'm sure people had this discussion with Birdman, but what did you think to the actual very end of the film? How did you interpret it?
I'd say the very end was very artistic and was a nice finish.
So did you like the ending?
Yeah, I quite liked it.
I can see the ending dividing quite a lot of people. I know that some people don't quite like those very abrupt make up your own mind decisions. So do you think
if you want to know what the real life story was, in the end, I think
I know it.
No, do you know how the real life story went?
I think I do, yeah. He got sick or something, did he, straight after?
John Fitzgerald's character actually joined the army, and Hugh Glass went to go kill him, and then decided against it, and basically told the crimes to the army, because killing a person in the army is a very high penalty, like really bad penalty, like worse than death, it says on here. But Leo went back to his job for trapping and stuff like that, and then he died to a native Indian raid, and they said that because they knew who he was, they strung him up and gave him a brutal death. So he probably survived the film The Revenant, but he didn't survive the actual event.
With that film, you see, because it's only semi-based on true events, it's its own thing.
I prefer this version of history.
Oh, I do too, because
just
imagine if it had got... imagine if it had got there at the end of the film and it was like, oh yeah, Tom Hardy's in the army now, and DiCaprio's like, well, shit, credits. But no, I sort of interpret it where he had pretty much nothing left to live for anymore. He had become animalistic on this journey. He was hell-bent on revenge. He got it, and then it was a sort of, now what moment? He was at one with himself. He'd done what he needed to.
The last thing he saw was his wife, I'd say.
Yeah.
And he saw her disappearing, and then I think in his head he realised that everything that he wanted to live for is now dead, and he had to come up to that choice of whether he wanted to lay there in the snow and let his life fade away, or try and make it back to land, another long journey without a horse this time again. So
it was very similar to the ending of Gladiator, I thought. Gladiator sort of wraps up in a more of a neat little bow, but you had the whole revenge thing, death of the son and wife. He gets the revenge, and then he dies straight after that. So I interpreted that he'd done what he needed to.
Yeah.
His mission was complete. He had nothing really much to live for anymore, so he was just at one and would probably die pretty much straight after that. But I can't really think of anything else to talk about. Do you want to just give a brief sum up again, and then we'll close out?
Watch The Revenant.
Yes.
It's probably going to win Best Picture, and people are going to be talking about it for a long time now, until I'd probably say Deadpool. So go watch Revenant.
Yep, absolutely. Although this isn't a straight-out Western, I would love to see the Western genre come back after we've had Hateful Eight and this.
Well, we had Slow West as well.
Yes, yeah, we did have that one. But yeah, give it a watch. Definitely
and the
see it
Ridiculous
on the big screen.
Six.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Don't watch it.
It sounds ridiculous.
No, don't watch it. And I'll give you one reason why not to watch it. It's Adam Sandler.
Oh.
So, as a forfeit for the next month's Movie Minute.
We need to decide on that forfeit, by the way, as well. But you'll hear who's winning once more of those come out.
I'll be uploading them soon, by the way.
Sweet. So, yeah, that will do it for our review on The Revenant. Be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of The Revenant. Have you seen it? Haven't you seen it? Let us know what you thought. Get involved with the conversation. So we'll be bringing you a lot more reviews coming up in our lead up to Oscar season. We've got reviews for Joy, The Big Short, Trumbo, and Room.
And make sure on the actual night to tune into the Oscar stream. We know that the Oscars can be boring sometimes, so we're going to try and make it funner by streaming the whole thing, playing a couple of games. We'll probably be chatting to you guys in the chat. It's going to be a fun night, hopefully, and hopefully the stream strays up. But yeah, this is going to be a very interesting experience for us, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So, spread it around. We want to try and get a huge crowd to that live stream.
We want to get a maximum at one point of at least 100, maybe more than the subscribers that we have.
It's ambitious, but
very
it'd be
ambitious,
great if we could do it.
We are ambitious people. Seriously.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're living in America, because I know it's very difficult to stay up until about 4 o'clock in the morning in England, unless you're drunk. So I'm sure that Chris will be, so that's fine.
And I mean, the Oscars are a good occasion as any, surely. Well, especially I will be throwing them back if Ed Main does win.
So
but
if
I will
you want
also
to tune in to a drunk Chris talking about how Leonardo DiCaprio should have won the Oscar for Best Actor, then please tune in to the Oscar stream, which will be on our YouTube channel. Just go onto YouTube, and it should be coming up in the feed if you are subscribed. If not, then once again, it's at Cinema Savvy. So yeah, tune in for that. Should be good.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you can also, we'll be posting times and stuff once we've got them all set in stone on our Facebook page, Twitter pages. Yeah. You can find us at facebook.com/cinemasavvy, on Twitter at cinema_savvy, and at Letterboxd you can just find a list of all the films we've reviewed so far. That's at cinema_savvy as well. All the links will be in the description below. So yeah, get involved. Lots of exciting things coming to the channel. We've got new shows starting up. There's a lot more reactions coming up now with trailers, getting into sort of trailers for summer movie season as well. So yeah, please hit subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the channel, check out our reviews, and share your thoughts on the movies we're reviewing. So I'm not exactly sure what the next review will be, but that should be up in the next few days. So until next time, thanks for listening.